Something in you has been whispering that the countdown already started, that the way you have been living is 1 degree off, and the cost of that single degree is beginning to show up everywhere. Do you recognize the new kind of tired that sleep does not fix? The quiet ache that follows a day that looked productive but felt strangely empty. The sense that your life keeps circling a runway that never gives the final clearance to land. If you do, treat this as confirmation. The window you have been waiting for is open, and it will not wait for your fear to feel ready. This is not a threat. It is a mercy. Timing has aligned in a way that makes change cheaper now than delay. You can tell a threshold has arrived by how repetition behaves. Old distractions do not seduce you the way they used to. Scrolling stops taking the edge off. Conversations you could perform in your sleep suddenly ask for honesty or silence. Small interruptions appear like guards redirecting you toward a lane you keep pretending not to see. The invitations that fit your next chapter feel unreasonably simple, and the ones that belong to your old self require explanations you can no longer give without hearing the hollowness in your own voice. Even your body participates. Your shoulders lift when you agree to what you do not want. Your breath lengthens the moment you consider what you have been avoiding. These are not random signals. They are navigation lights, and they are synchronized right now in a way you will not experience if you postpone this decision until the calendar is prettier. Quantum shifting is a big phrase for a familiar experience. It is the moment an inner alignment becomes strong enough to reorganize the outer scene, not through spectacle, but through the precision of a choice that your system can support without fighting itself. When alignment reaches a certain density, new options appear that were technically available before, but practically unreachable. Confidence is not what opens the door. Contact does. Contact with the version of you that is already living the pace and the priorities you keep glimpsing. You have met this version in flashes. In the hour of the day when you feel most like yourself. In the way your voice sounds when you stop performing for 2 minutes. In the rare conversation that leaves you steadier and more awake. Those flashes were not exceptions. They were previews. Here is why the hour is final. Windows are not eternal. They are agreements between inner readiness and outer conditions. The world has shifted in the last weeks in a way that favors people who can make clean moves without rehearsals. Noise is high and attention is a currency. If you do not spend yours on what belongs to you, someone else will spend it for you. You were born for this precisely because your life prepared you in ways you might mistake for detours. The disappointments trained you to detect counterfeits faster. The successes that did not satisfy trained you to hunger for fit, rather than for applause. The friction taught you to recognize the difference between a door and a wall painted to look like one. Today you are equipped to use that recognition without the usual self-sabotage. You do not need a speech to the world. You need one internal declaration and a step that belongs to it. The declaration will not sound like a wish. It will sound like a line delivered from the center of your chest that even your doubt must respect. The step will not be cinematic. It will be small enough to accomplish before the day ends and real enough to leave a mark that your life cannot ignore. This is how timelines bend toward you. Not with thunder, but with fidelity to the simplest move that proves you heard the timing. Relief will arrive before results if you are on it. That is the sign to watch for as we begin. If fear is arguing that you will lose people or status by changing pace, listen closely. What you will lose first is the weight of pretending. You cannot carry both the life that fits and the role that kept you acceptable to the wrong rooms. Choosing does not make you hard. It makes you readable to the people who have been trying to find you. Choosing also teaches time how to treat you. When you move with clean timing, the day stops punishing you with delays that were only waiting for you to decide. In the next section, you will learn how to stabilize this alignment long enough for the outer scene to respond. You will learn a way to set your state in under 2 minutes, so you stop negotiating with panic and start listening to precision. You will not be told to erase doubt. Doubt can sit beside you while you do the work. What matters is that you stop renting your hour to the old pattern that has already shown you its price. The final hour is not the end of something fragile. It is the beginning of a chapter that can carry weight. You were born for it, because you are tired of holding back more than you are afraid of being seen. Keep breathing. The door opens inward, and the handle is in your hand. Here is what it feels like when alignment stops being a mood and becomes a setting you can hold. Your awareness steps back 1 inch from the glass, and the room grows clearer without changing. Thoughts keep moving, but they stop dragging you. Breath lengthens by a count, and the body reads that as permission to stop bracing. And in that unbraced space, the signal under the noise becomes legible enough to guide one exact move. This is where quantum shifting ceases to be a headline and becomes a sequence. State first, then choice, then proof. State is the weather inside you that either distorts or clarifies the scene. Choice is the sentence you deliver from the center rather than from the panic. Proof is the small fact you place in the world before your doubt finishes its second paragraph. The hour is final not because the window will vanish, but because the cost of waiting will rise in ways you can measure. Each day spent half agreeing and half pretending adds friction to the bearings. Each conversation where you hide your one clean sentence teaches your nervous system to expect delay. Today reverses the lesson by making coherence the cheapest option on the table. Begin by lending your attention to what repeats without fanfare. Repeats are the universe's way of speaking softly to those who are finally quiet enough to hear. A phrase you have not used in months starts knocking in 2 unrelated conversations. A certain hour of the day keeps returning as the only time your mind feels honest. A name appears, and then appears again and then again, until even your skepticism has to admit that the pattern is requesting a response. Treat these repeats as coordinates, not as entertainment. They are not telling you everything. They are asking you to meet them halfway with one precise move you can complete before the day ends. When you meet them this way, the field reorganizes because your participation gave it a shape to answer. Relief arrives before results, and you know you are on the seam. Shifting has never required fireworks. It has always required fidelity to the next right action that your body does not argue with. Fear will offer you a menu of delays, and it will decorate them with admirable reasons. It will suggest that you wait until you feel certain, that you gather more opinions so you cannot be accused of moving prematurely, that you dress your next step in perfect language before you take it. Certainty is a weather pattern, not a prerequisite. Opinions dilute authorship. Perfect language is a wall you build to avoid walking through the door. Replace those expenses with 3 cheaper moves. Calm your physiology with 1 slow exhale that is longer than your inhale. Choose 1 sentence in the present tense that fits the room you are actually standing in. Place 1 small piece of proof where no one, not even you, can argue that nothing happened today. The plan becomes obvious when you put weight on the step you can take. The step you can take belongs to the timeline that is inviting you. That is why it feels like a click rather than a wrestle. You do not need anyone to clap for this moment. You need to become readable to yourself so the world can stop shouting to get your attention. You have trained for this by surviving seasons where you were out of rhythm with your own life. What looked like detours taught you the shape of your true path by contrast. What looked like delays taught you the price of indecision. Use that tuition. The final hour asks only that you stop giving energy to the hallway and start walking through the doorway that has been waiting at the edge of your honest attention. Now we turn the setting into a method you can carry into any hour. Because breakthrough that cannot be re-entered on purpose is just a story, and you are here to change reality, not to narrate it. There is a seat behind your brow where attention comes to rest when you cease forcing it to entertain you. Find it by softening the muscles around your eyes and letting your gaze widen by a few quiet degrees while you feel the air move at the base of your ribs. Thoughts will continue to pass, but they will not own the room. From that seat, speak 1 line in the present tense that matches the life you keep glimpsing. The line is small and precise enough that your body can say yes without rolling its eyes. I move at the speed of accuracy. I protect the hour that feeds my work. I answer honestly and early. Speak at once like you are confirming a meeting with yourself. Then place a piece of proof so small you can execute it before your resistance finds its shoes. Send the first line rather than the perfect paragraph. Decline the invitation that drains you without explaining your entire history. Put the right tool in reach, so momentum has nothing to argue with. You are not waiting for mood. You are training mood to follow movement. As you run this sequence, you will notice the difference between force and fit. Force feels like talking yourself into a story that requires constant management. Fit feels like the room giving a little when you press with the grain. Force leaves you noisy after you act. Fit leaves you steadier and more available to the next moment. This is the physics of the shift. When your inner state and your outer move stop contradicting each other, the field around you stops treating your steps as errors to be corrected. Time cooperates by offering you options that were always present but were hidden under the static of your hesitation. People who belong to this pace appear without being summoned because your steadiness is legible from a distance. Systems that were indifferent begin to help because you have become a person systems can help. None of this is mystical. It is the intelligence of reality, preferring clarity over confusion. You will be tempted to make the method bigger than necessary out of habit. Long routines that once felt righteous will suddenly feel like stalling because they ask for hours before they deliver a single fact. Long explanations that once felt responsible will suddenly feel like leaks because they spend the energy reserved for the act itself. Keep it small so it can be kept. The body trusts kept promises. Kept promises retrain the mind more quickly than any argument. Each time you speak a right-sized line and lay down one proof, the gap between intention and experience narrows. The more it narrows, the less room doubt has to perform. Doubt can remain seated. It is simply a voice among others in a room you now manage. This is how quantum shifting becomes the ordinary way you move, rather than an extraordinary day you keep trying to repeat. If the mechanics are clear, the next movement is application across the parts of life that actually determine the texture of your days. In your body, treat alignment as a practice of contact, rather than a performance of discipline. Begin a morning by standing barefoot and letting breath fill the ribs sideways, while your shoulders lower by a count. Say the line that belongs today and make one adjustment you can feel. The adjustment is not a promise about the future. It is a change in how you inhabit this hour. Your spine becomes a column rather than a question mark, and suddenly your mind writes cleaner sentences because it is no longer working under threat. In your work, treat momentum as the currency that invites help. Open a document and place a first line in the world before you negotiate with your procrastination. That one line changes the status of your idea from fantasy to object, and objects attract collaboration in a way wishes do not. In your relationships, treat honesty as a form of generosity rather than as an attack. Say the simpler sentence sooner, and then let silence do its job. The room will reveal whether it relates to your accuracy or to your old performance. Either outcome is information that saves you time. Expect resistance to escalate right when the new pace becomes stable. Resistance will borrow respectable costumes and speak in familiar voices. It will call itself duty and ask you to carry more than your portion in the name of being a good person. It will call itself urgency and demand that you decide while braced. Decline both and return to the sequence. When pressed, remember that controlled breathing is not cosmetics. It is the signal that instructs your entire system to widen its perspective. Wide perspectives make better choices than narrow ones. You are not avoiding reality by slowing your exhale. You are meeting more of it. This is also the right moment to bring the community in the room with you into the field you are creating. The act of declaring your intention in a single sentence and putting it in writing anchors the setting not as magic, but as accountability that travels. If the timing of this transmission has given you language, use it publicly in a small way. In the comments, write one clean line that you are willing to live today. Write it in your own words, so your nervous system recognizes the voice. Then match it with one action you can complete before tonight. You are not performing for strangers. You are recruiting witnesses who will mirror back to you the standard you are choosing. When hundreds of people place aligned lines into the same field, the signal strengthens for each of them because coherence likes company. The crowd becomes a calibration tool. Your line becomes a promise you can hear, echoed in the choices you make for the rest of the day. This is how individual shifts compound into a timeline change that does not collapse when a single mood fades. You have felt the edge where your life starts to rhyme with itself, the place where relief arrives before results and timing cooperates without needing to be chased. Now comes the tenderness of protecting that edge while the old world attempts a final negotiation. Expect offers to return wearing softer colors. The role that once kept you celebrated will whisper that it can be less expensive if you put it back on for one more season. The relationship that fed on your overgiving will promise to learn your new language while asking you to translate it for them. The pace that stole your best hours will swear it can be kinder next week. These are not omens, they are confirmations that your field has changed. When the past tries to bargain, give it the grace of a clear no. No is not cruelty. No is a boundary that keeps the current clean, so your yes can build something that lasts. You are not punishing anyone. You are ending the habit of paying for late truth. To stabilize the shift beyond today, give the next 72 hours a simple architecture that respects your energy. Mornings belong to declaring and keeping a promise you can complete before noon. Midday belongs to meeting hinges with your quieter question, so applause stops outranking accuracy. Evenings belong to coherence, so sleep becomes a partner in consolidating the new setting. Walk each day with the thin thread of attention resting behind your brow so the receiver stays on. If you forget, the moment you remember is the practice. Reset at noon, if noon is all you have. Practice in a stairwell if the only door that closes is the one between flights. Reality does not require perfect conditions. It requires contact and proportion. The more you supply both, the more your world will volunteer to help. You may still worry that choosing this lane makes you a mystery to people who knew you only by your compromise. Let them be confused for a while. Confusion is a sign that the map is updating. In the meantime, notice how your calendar begins to respect you back. Notice how your body lowers unnecessary armor. Notice how rooms that once asked for a performance now invite a presence that saves time. Notice how work that used to require pressure begins to respond to existence. The proof of a real shift is that your days leak less. You eat meals you can taste. You finish tasks in fewer passes. You wait for fewer things that never arrive because you are occupied making the ones that do. This is not a personality transplant. It is a return to the natural behavior of a system no longer at war with itself. As we approach the close, make one more decision. Carry a sentence with you for a week that you can say out loud whenever the hallway gets loud. I choose the move that leaves me quieter in an hour. Let that line choose for you when pride wants to argue. Let it choose when fear wants to sprint. Let it choose when nostalgia wants to dress a wall like a door. If anyone asks what changed, tell them the truth in the simplest possible way. You stopped waiting for the mirror to move first. You began moving in a size that fits, and the mirror answered. Before you go, anchor this shift beyond today. If this transmission steadied your timing, stay inside this field. Subscribe now so this signal keeps finding you exactly when you need it, and let the next chapter meet you on schedule. See you on the other side.